Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of my Roblox how-to series on everything that you need to know about how to make Roblox games. So, in the last episode, we talked about functions here. And in this video, we're going to be talking about while loops. Essentially, what a while loop does is it'll continue to cycle through code repeatedly until something tells it otherwise. So essentially, what I mean by this is I could have something like print monkey, right? I could have the print monkey, and if I put this inside of a while loop, it'll continue to print monkey, and I can even like set it to wait a certain amount of time before it goes back to the top of the loop, like 3 seconds. So it'll print monkey every 3 seconds. Now, how do you set up a while loop, you might be asking? Well, the way you set up a while loop is you type while, and it'll show up in red. And if you want this to repeat forever, then you write true. And then write do, and then hit enter, and it should create an end. So everything inside of here is the code that'll continue to loop. So essentially what true does is, well, true equals true, which means that this is going to continue to run. This part right here, in between while and do, is a kind of like a check almost. Kind of similar to if statements, where they'll check to see if something is true or false. A while loop will check to see if something is true or false. If it's true, it'll continue to run the code. And then it'll go back to the top, and then it'll check it again, and then it'll continue, and then check it again. And true is always true, because it equals itself, which means that it'll continue running forever. Now, one thing you really do have to be careful with is at the end of every single while loop, it's good practice to put a wait statement, because if you don't put a wait statement, then it'll run this code way too many times per second for the computer to be able to handle, which will overload the system and either crash Roblox Studio, or it'll stop the code and it'll give you an error message saying that it timed out because it exhausted like a certain amount of time that it could wait for code to respond. And I can prove this by putting print monkey, and then if I don't put a wait in here and I hit run, and there we go, it froze. Now I can't move. I got the little spinny wheel. And eventually what it's gonna do is it's gonna end up printing an error message into here saying that it timed out because it couldn't handle it. Okay, so after a while, it's printed this: script timeout, exhausted allowed execution time. Right here. And it printed monkey 4,996 times. So, that's not good. But if I put wait, it'll run super fast, but it won't crash the game. You'll see right here, it'll just start racking up the numbers really, really fast. And I should probably get rid of this wait. We can actually just get rid of this code, since we don't need it. So what we could do in order to do something with our part here is we can just move it a little bit along the, let's just say, the z-axis. We can move it 10 steps over on the z-axis, like that. And then once it reaches here, it'll stop. but we'll continue to slowly increase the z-axis number until it reaches 10. So, we have our while loop here, and we can check with an if statement to see whether it has reached 10 or not. So part.position, and then we can actually do more with the position property by putting .x, y, or z, so we can then get individual coordinates instead of single coordinates. So we want the z-axis, and we want to see if it's greater than or equal to 10. And if it is, then we write break. What break does is it breaks the loop, like it says. But if it hasn't met that condition, then we'll add on to the position. Probably not 10. Probably like 0.5. And then we need to add the wait statement at the end. So plus equals, if I haven't explained it already, what plus equals does is it just adds on to the existing position, or adds on to whatever you put here. So we have our x position, which is 0, plus 0 is 0, 10 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 0.5 is 0.5. That's what it's essentially doing. So if we hit run, it'll move, and then it'll stop. Right there, at 10. Pretty simple. Now, if you wanted to check, if you wanted to check that thing up here instead of with an if statement, you could just put this up here, and then you could just have that. And then you hit run, and it'll do the exact same thing. Except it won't, 'cause I'm a doofus. It needs to be less than or equal to 10, because it'll only run the code if it's less than or equal to 10, but we were checking to see if it was greater than or equal to 10 for it to stop. So we need to flip that around, and there we go, it does the exact same thing. So you can write it either way, they both do the same thing, but this one probably would look cleaner, and it takes up less lines of code. That's one big thing that you should strive for, is to make sure that your code is as efficient as it possibly can be without making a bajillion lines of code. Trying to minimize the amount of lines of code is a really good practice, because it increases the readability of things, and it just allows you to navigate the code easier. So that's essentially it for loops, or while loops, I should say. And in the next video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about a more advanced version of while loops, which are called for loops. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you there. Peace.